and you wouldn't have had the money if you would have slept during college, or if you wouldn't go into work today, you wouldn't have gotten anything. You did have your effort put into it. On the other hand, just who gave you the power to give that effort? Who was able to help you go through college? It gave you just even basically your life, your health, your energy. Who gave you the ability to be smarter to go through college and not be a dropout like someone else? Who gave you the ability to be a good and aware in business or whatever job you are in? That, of course, is from above. So therefore, when you see another person, the attitude isn't, well, I made it, I'm smart, I have the money, he's dumb, he's stupid, he doesn't have money. Okay, I'll give him a few dollars, give him a sandwich, whatever have you. I'll help that poor guy out. That's not the right attitude. The attitude, he has his circumstances, and we don't deal with something's wrong with that other person. He has unfortunate circumstances. We don't know why. Talked about that before. We don't know why poor people is poor and sick people are sick. That's not in our realm to know. But we could judge a person favorably and say, well, it's not his fault. Who knows? A recession nowadays, of course, is always a reason. It's not his fault he was laid off from work. Whatever have you, there's different excuses we can give to the other person. For myself, I know that I only had what I have with the help from above. So it's only tzedek again. It's only right that I should help that other person out. It's not just, so to speak, charity. Well, I'll have mercy and pity on the person, give him charity. It's only right that I help him out. God deals with that person the way he does, and from above they deal with me the way I do. It's only right that we help each other out. That is an introduction to charity. Of course, I have always a stock of a million stories I like telling, and people like listening, hopefully, and therefore I have another little idea of a story, and this goes hand in hand with charity, and it just shows, which I said before, a person said, well, I have a nice home, I have a car, and therefore I'll help the person out with something. So this person comes to this famous rabbi, is a Mizritcher Maggid by name, and he comes and he says to him, he says, I decided to serve the Almighty better. And he was a rich man, instead of eating so much and taking care of all my comforts, I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to be an ascetic a little bit, and I'm only going to eat bread and water. This way I'll be a little bit more spiritual. So comes to Mr. Tremag and says, no. For you should eat a good meal. You should have whatever the rich people eat. This is what you should have, a nice meal and meat and the side dish and 6-course dinner. You have a good meal. So after this, the rabbi students came to him. Says, we don't understand. Really, it's a good, very meritorious idea. The person should deny them. He doesn't have to. You don't have to have everything. Indulge yourself. The person is coming to you already and asking to be a little bit aesthetic. Why don't you let him do what he wants to do? Why did you deny him and saying, hey, you should eat a big meal? What's the big deal in having? Why should the person tell the person to eat a lot, to have a good meal? And the rabbi was smarter, and he said to him like this. He says, this rich man, he says, will have a beautiful, like we said, 6-course meal. Then a poor man will come to his door. No, he'll say that for that person he can have, give him a few pieces of bread and water, at least something he can eat. But if this rich man himself is eating the bread and the water, what's he going to tell the poor man? You could eat rocks. Well, of course, that's the idea here, that, of course, we're not at the full level of charity, which leads us to our next idea, different levels of charity, but hopefully we at least have some compassion on other people and understand that it's not just because of our efforts and our greatness that we've come to any great level, but it's only with the help from above, and that person's unfortunate with his circumstances, and they need a little bit more, so it's only right to help them out. Now we have an interesting chart here, and I refer you to our chart. And we're going to look here at the Maimonides 8 degrees of tzedakah. Again, tzedakah is the Hebrew word for charity. And we're going to start on the bottom because these are rungs on a ladder. And you start, of course, on the bottom rung of a ladder, and you will step by step go up. Now, with a charity, then this is why I introduced the show as saying that when a person gives charity, that it's not so simple. We could always say you give to a poor man. Of course, that is charity. On the other hand, there's ways of giving. Now, the Gemara does say It's very interesting. The Talmud says that a person is blessed with 6 blessings when they give charity. But when you, that's when you give to somebody. But when you actually, that you should console the other person, you say, all right, I know you're out of a job, it's a recession, I know that things will turn around, the economy will get better, and I'm sure you'll get a good job. And this way you give the person a little bit of hope. He's blessed with 11 blessings, which this comes to show us it's not just how many dollar bills or what kind of check that you give out for charity. There's also ways of giving charity. And remember that once I say amount of dollars, that's also important. Just because a person, he may give $1 million, so he's worth $100 million, and he writes it off his taxes. Well, it's very fine and good that he does that at least. But obviously a person only has $100 and he gives a few dollars and he has to deny himself maybe a good meal or with something that he needs. That, of course, that we can't judge, and anyway, we're not judges of anybody. There's only one judge in the world from above, the Almighty, and therefore we're not in a position to judge, but you should know in your heart, and we should all know this. It's just a matter of, well, like again, it's the quality, it's not so much the quantity of giving. So without further ado, I'll take you through the 8 rungs of charity according to the Maimonides, and then we're going to tell a little bit more about the Maimonides, who he was, but let's start with the chart because we're dealing with charity. On the bottom rung, first rung, number 1, a person gives but is glum when giving. This is the lowest degree of all. And this is what we just said before, that a person gives, and all right, you gave. We can't deny you that you get the mitzvah commandment, the good deed of giving charity, but what kind of, hopefully everybody is fortunate enough to have money. But when a person is on the receiving end, how do you think that person feels? Here's $1, now get out of here, or something like that. Of course, he's got the dollar in his hand. He doesn't feel good about it, and therefore that's the lowest rung. You get the credit for giving, just that's about it. You don't get really the credit for making the person feel good about himself. We're going up the next notch to 2, and obviously I think you'll be able to see how each one's a higher level, but we'll take you through them too. A person gives cheerfully, but gives less than he should. So being cheerful is important and puts him up to the second level of giving charity. And everybody likes a cheerful person, but you say, okay, here's a quarter. Now, you know the person could give more, but if they only give a quarter, that doesn't make them so great on a high level. But it's above 2 is above 1 because at least that person gave cheerfully and at least makes you feel good the way you're giving. We're up to number 3. A person gives, but only when asked by the poor. You see in the picture that the person's begging on his knees. Again, that's a nice way of a person gives, maybe gives cheerfully, but the person had to come begging for that person. Actually, I know people, of course, we collect charity for poor people, of course. It's part of the clergy's job, but then it's a big mitzvah, of course. But besides that, there are other big charity funds, and I know people who are in charge of these funds. And it's interesting to note that that person says it's not the hardest job is to collecting money, which is hard enough, of course. But he says, you know, the hardest thing of all is to knowing who really is worthy of receiving the charity. Now that sounds a little funny to you if you haven't dealt with charitable cases. But if you think about it, and if you don't know about it, well, then I'm informing you of it. Many people want charity, and maybe they are deserving, maybe they aren't deserving of it, or as deserving, but sometimes hard. Some humble people will not ask for charity. And very hard to deal with these people and find them out and dig them up. The people are really deserving of charity, but of course that some people do come begging for it. But that's why at the third rung it's a low rung, because you have to wait. First of all, you're waiting for a person to get the charity. It'd be better if you go over to that person and find out who really needs, or you hear about somebody that really needs, and give them the charity. We're up to number 4. A person gives without having to be asked, which is, of course, higher than level number 3, because a person doesn't have to sit there and be asked, but they know themselves that they have to give charity. But gives directly to the poor. Now, so what's the problem with that, giving direct? Now the poor know who gave them help, and the giver too knows whom he has benefited. Now we're going to deal with, we're on a fourth rung, which the next few rungs is going to deal with, is about embarrassing people. Well, of course, we're not saying that a person should insult a poor person. Of course, that's surely not allowed. You don't say this person, you low life, you slob, you can't work. That's surely not allowed. No one's talking about that. But even if you give cheerfully, again, it's a very humbling experience to receive charity. And it's not an easy job. And sometimes we can scoff people, oh, they're a bunch of moochers, whatever have you. Again, most people are in circumstances. They can't help themselves. They're not evil people. They're not wicked people that receive charity. They're down on their luck, as we said, and lost a job or whatever happened. Different circumstances happen to different people. I'm not just talking from theory. Like I say, we deal with many poor people, unfortunate people. And you can't just go around blaming people. Many times, and it's unfortunate, divorce rate is high. You have single parents, and the mothers can't work because they have little children at home. And these people are not wicked people in any sense. Again, unfortunate, they got divorced. It's a problem in today's society, as we talk about many times. But obviously, these people deserve help. I mean, they need help, and they surely should get help. And they aren't wicked people. They're not moochers and lowlifes just because they need the help. So therefore, it is an embarrassing situation. A person needs help. Hopefully you didn't experience that ever in your life, but a little imagination, you can understand how it is a very embarrassing situation for a person to receive charity. So therefore, even if a person gives the money, even if they find out we're on the fourth rung, they give cheerfully, and they give the right amount, and they sought out that charitable person. They didn't have to wait for him to beg on their hands and knees. Still, it's an embarrassing situation for the poor person to get money from someone else, and that's why they're only up to fourth rung. That brings us up into see what is more correct, more honorable is number 5. A person gives his donation in a certain place and then turns his back, so he does not know which of the poor person he has helped. But the poor person knows to whom he is indebted. Well, we're getting up in the ranks, of course, so we only need 8, and we're 5th, so this is a higher level that the poor person gives, but the poor person knows, the rich person gives, the poor person knows who gave it. Like we have a little bit in our picture, the rich person's not looking at the poor person. Now, a little bit it's embarrassing for the poor person because he still has to know who he's giving to. There's a story in the Talmud that one rabbi slung, not like a hobo, but slung a little package over a knapsack, so to speak. Let's use it that way. It's not exactly clear what it is. On his back. And the poor people knew who to take their money, that they knew that person is a charitable person. They could come and take their money out of that sack. Well, this would be the same thing. The rich man or the charity person giver wouldn't know who exactly he's giving to, but the poor person knew who he's getting it from, and that's still, again, embarrassing a little bit to the recipient. So that brings us up to number 6. A person throws the money into the house of someone who is poor. The poor person does not know whom he has intended, but the donor knows whom he has helped. So therefore, this is like from the giver point of view, a person can feel good, oh, I helped that poor person out. And therefore, since there's still some ulterior motives, there's still some good feeling in it, he can sit back and say, I really helped that guy out. I know who he helped. There he is. I bet you he's sitting down at a nice meal because of me. Therefore, it's a high level. I mean, we're up to number 6. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's ultimately not the ultimate best because a person's feeling still good about himself. It's not the pure mitzvah. A person does a good deed, a mitzvah. Of course, it's nice to feel good about it. And like we say, any good deed, there's no punishment involved and it's not torture. No one's asking anybody to knock their head against a wall. That is not a mitzvah. But it is a mitzvah to give charity. But ultimately, we don't want so much of a person that when you do it because it's the right thing to do. It's not because I feel good about it. If you do feel good about it, better you should feel good about it and then not do anything. But the highest and purest level is if you do it because it's the right thing to do without any ulterior motive of feeling good about it. but still on a high level. That's 6 out of 8. We're up to number 7 now. A person contributes anonymously to the tzedakah charity fund, which is then distributed to the poor. Here, the person does not know to whom he is indebted, and the donor does not know whom he has helped. Well, you have in this little picture of number 7, little girl or a woman, whatever, giving into a charity box. Now, the charity box, of course, when the gabbai is called in Hebrew, the person who is in charge of the charity fund, will distribute the funds. Well, you don't know at all who the money is going to. You don't know the people in charge that are being given. You don't know, only the gabbai who's in charge really knows who he's giving it out to. So that on your part, you feel good, well, I'm doing the right thing, the money's going to a good cause, and hopefully the person who's distributing the charity is a truthful and faithful person that's given it to the right people and doing the right thing with the money. And that is, of course, very important in that sense, so that that person knows that he's not, that he's giving to the right thing, he's giving to the right charity. There's always problems that way. A person should know that the people in charge of the charity fund are giving it to the right places, and that's important. Now, and also, though, the person can't have really any real good feeling. Oh, I know that person, Mr. X down the road, is now eating a good meal when they just lost a job and there's no money for their kids or whatever have you. So therefore, that's more of a pure act of giving, and that's why it's all the way up to number 7. Now, number 8, and all so far we've been giving cheerfully, give enough, don't wait for the person to come begging, giving anonymously. Now we're up to the 8th and highest rung, and this is a shocker. If you haven't saw the picture beforehand, before I tune you into it, and then read it to you of what the picture 8 is. Now this, remember, is the highest level of giving charity. Highest of all is when money is given is a present to another for preventing the poor, such as providing him with a job or lending him money to tide him over for a difficult time. There is no tzedakah against charity greater than this, because it prevents poverty happening in the first place. Now this is amazing, but this is the highest level of charity of all. And as our picture shows, you provide a person with a job. Now isn't this beautiful and interesting that you can give cheerfully or you can give anonymously, but the best way of helping a poor person is getting a job and providing the funds for what he's found out without relying on the sustenance of other people. This is the greatest of all. And also, I just want, he noted also in the chart that a poor person gets a loan fund. And we didn't bring this out clearly, and this is another idea, that there are called free loans in Judaism. People should give free loans. A person needs the help, he needs the money for something or another, he needs business. So it's a great, great mitzvah. It's actually a greater mitzvah than giving him out money in the first place. You can imagine why? Now this is what I'm asking. I'm saying that the Judaism considers giving a loan, a free loan. Obviously a loan means by definition that that person has, the lender has to, the borrower has to pay it back, is greater than a person would give the money outright. And obviously you can give it outright, you don't have to pay it back. So why is that? So again, we're always talking about saving face. It's a very major idea in Judaism, as we saw it in the 8 degrees of charity also. It's not just enough giving. You can't embarrass the person, and you have to give cheerfully. So here also, when you give a loan, a person doesn't say, well, I'm a poor man, I need charity, I'm a moocher, whatever have you. But a person could say, well, I'm paying it back. I just need a little money to get on my feet, start a little business, do something with myself, and then I'm going to be able to pay it back. I'm really not taking charity. So that's so important that a person's saving face by giving these different charities. But the highest level of law is the free loan fund, because a free loan helps a person get what he's needed, but saving total face when he obviously pays it back and gets up on his feet, hopefully gets a job, does something with himself, and therefore the person feels good about themselves. Well, These are the 8 levels of giving charity that we said by the Rambam, and we really don't have that much chance to get into the Maimonides. The rest of the chart we'll have to get into another time. Talks about the different levels of the different greatnesses of Rambam, of the Maimonides, who said that. I know I'm just telling you a little bit. We talked about Maimonides before, who was one of the greatest sages of Judaism. And we'll have to, that's why I say it's only a few minutes left to talk about this. We really can't give a full, give justice to the Maimonides by just bringing in his whole biography and his life story in a few minutes. But let me just bring it into the issues for current events. Of course, like we always say, the learning and the talking is not the main thing, it's the doing. Many people need charity. Many people have to be helped out, and there's a recession, it's hard times. But that's also concerning even a bigger picture is the government also. We also see many times that people need handouts, but really, what do really people really want? And I think the 99% of people who are even taking charity of some sort or another, either through governmental means or through charitable funds, they really want to just save face and really they want a decent job and a decent life, and they're not just looking there to just, like we say, mooch off the system, because people want to save face. The greatest concept of a human being is that they should work for something and they should get what they worked for, and not just going around getting something for nothing. But saying this on that level, going back to the personal level, people cannot just say, and it's many times it's called in Judaism, this country is a very beautiful country. It's fortunate. I think it's fortunate for every people, and the Jewish people have what to be thankful also to being in the United States of America. It's a very kind country. It's not oppressive in any measure, in any sense of the imagination. People can do what they want, and sometimes that's a fault also. We say people will be stricter with crime and punishment. That's another issue. But the point is that this country is very kind. They give assistance to many ways, food stamps, WIC, and ADC. Many things that this country is so great in giving charity. This country gives charity even to other countries. Saying all that, it still behooves every person, as an individual, to help out their friend, their neighbor, their person in their community. It actually says, and I know it's an English statement, but it really comes from Judaism, that charity begins at home. Charity begins at home. If there's nobody in your home, then it is the people in your neighborhood. If it's not in the neighborhood, it goes to your city. In the city, then it goes to your country. Not to your country, it goes out of the country. And that is just the different levels of who to give to charity to. So even though the country takes care of a lot of people, still, and like we say before, there's no smile on the government checks. A person needs a helping hand, and that's just sometimes even more important, as we see with our charity chart, than actually giving. People want to know, they want to have a good word, and they want to be told it's all right and things are going to get better, and I'm sure things will turn around for you also. And that's like something even more important than actually the giving itself. And that's surely something the government can't do, and that's something that we can do. Every person has a nice smile on their face. Every person can say a nice few words to their neighbor and their friend when things are a person a little down on their luck. And charity doesn't only mean money also, for that matter. Like I say, even if you can't give charity, listening to a person at the time of need, giving them your 5-10 minutes and listening to them. You may not be a psychologist, you may not be a social worker, but that's all right also. A person needs a friend, and a friend is someone who listens. And that's charity too. Time, not everything has to be money. Of course, you can't write it off your taxes as a charitable contribution, but on the other hand, that's sometimes, in a way, sometimes more needed, as we're saying today, than even the money. Because a good friend and someone who listens and someone who cares is something more elevating and something strengthening a person more than actually just a few dollars in their hand. And that's an important thing for us to all remember. And hopefully we learned the 8 levels of giving charity. The Rambam, we'll talk about who this Rambam Maimonides was, the great Jewish scholar and educator and physician that lived about 850 years ago. But let us just keep in mind the 8 different levels of charity that we learned today, and let's try to work on the 8th level. But say, if it's like a ladder, you can't just jump to the top first. Start at the first rung and go up, and hopefully everybody learns a little bit about charity, and doing is the main thing. Thank you very much. Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Delmar Chabad Center, and today we'll be talking about a subject many people are talking about recently, and that is Christopher Columbus. Of course, we all know our history. Every little child in grammar school knows that Christopher Columbus, if we can say discovered, and that we won't use different nuances and semantics, but he was discovered for the European world, the new continent as we know it. Maybe he didn't know it at that time, but of North America. And lo and behold, here we are today with millions upon hundreds of millions of people strong, developing and culturing what we know as the Western Hemisphere. Now, I'm sure you didn't come to listen to the Jewish View to hear about a basic history lesson, and therefore we won't give you one. Therefore, we are going to talk about something you probably haven't heard about before, and that may be very interesting and intriguing, and that is Christopher Columbus.